What's up, gang? Welcome to the Greatness Machine. I'm your host, Darius and I'm so pumped to have you here with me. Now listen, the Greatness Machine, we're about two things. Number one, people who are living their passions. And number two, those who are creating greatness in the world and doing both of these things despite the odds against them. Each episode, we're going to feature interviews with game changers, business leaders, telling us their origin stories, what made them tick, what got them to where they are now. Why? So it can help you step into your greatness within your life, your business, and your career. Occasionally, you might hear a few solo episodes from myself, moi, as I say, as I leverage my 20 years of entrepreneurship as a CEO and founder to help you grow and level up in your journey to scale your life and your business. So come be a fly on the wall, enjoy the conversation, and I'm stoked to have you here with me. Guys, welcome to today's episode of The Greatness Machine. I'm your host, Darius and boy, do we have a special guest. Amy Purdy is in the house. What's up, Amy?
What's up? Hello. I'm excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so fired up. I took the whole summer off, and this is my first show back, and Amy's here. Like, things are good in the world. So thank you for coming.
It's great because I took the whole summer off too. So on the same page.
We got it in common. So audience members, you guys know how this goes. I want to give you guys a little bit of background. I first became aware of Amy and her work 2021 on the platform called Clubhouse. You guys have heard me talk about this. There was this like brief moment in time. It was like 7 or 8 weeks where like everyone in the world was on this platform. And I was on stage, and they called it being on stages, and Amy was on there, and I'm like, who's this person? And I like looked at her background, and I'm like, oh my God, this person is amazing. And it was like, this show was a live stream though. And then I launched it as a podcast. Actually, I launched it on a podcast. You'll love this. I launched it as the show launch was on Clubhouse. I actually did it on Clubhouse in March 21. And anyway, you guys know that, I'm pretty vigilant about putting interesting people on the list. And the team was very active, and her team and her were gracious enough to come on the show. And it was just really grateful to have you here today.
Thank you. I love that you brought up Clubhouse, because that was a lifeline. That was the coolest, funnest experience, and so needed at that time. I connected with so many amazing people. I learned so much. I had an entire notebook of all my Clubhouse notes that I would take from everybody. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was this little moment where I'm like, how are all these? I mean, we were all in lockdown, right, with like sheltering in place with COVID. But anyway, yeah, it was such a cool little moment. And anyhow, I just thought it's happened. I've probably had about a dozen people on the show that I first like learned of their work through Clubhouse, and you're one of them. And so, if you don't, do you mind if I give your formal bio? I would love for us to kind of let the audience I'm sure a lot of them know you, but some that don't, they have to get the formal bio is pretty awesome. Is that cool?
Sure.
All right. So you guys, I'm going to pull it up here just so I'm not reading from the screen, but Amy is a New York Times bestselling author of On My Own 2 Feet. I am struggling here. I'm rusty.
You're not alone. You're not alone.
So New York Times bestselling author of On My Own 2 Feet, 3 times Paralympic medalist, co-founder of Adaptive Action Sports. She's an entrepreneur. We're going to talk about some of the cool other projects she's working on. And runner-up, this one like totally threw me for a curveball. Runner-up on Dancing with the Stars season 18. So, I mean, if you want to talk about like a dynamic resume, I think you crushed that. That's just my own 2 cents. So great work there, Amy. Here at the Greatness Machine, we love origin stories. Would you mind, I would love for you to give your background, because you just really have a cool story, and I'd love for you to educate the audience on how did you get to where you got to?
Absolutely. It was a challenge a lot of the time to get here. But I grew up in Vegas, and I grew up skiing and snowboarding with my family, fell in love with snowboarding when I was 15, knew it was something that I would do for the rest of my life. And at the age of 19, the day after I graduated high school, I decided to become a massage therapist, because I thought, I can travel the world, have this job that would travel with me. All I needed were my hands and my massage table. I could go anywhere. And I ended up back in Vegas working as a massage therapist. And I really thought that my plan was to do massage, travel, and snowboard. So that's all I knew that I wanted to do. And all of a sudden, my life took a detour. When I was at work one day, I started to feel sick, like I was coming down with the flu. And within 24 hours, I was in the hospital on life support, where I was given less than a 2% chance of living. And I ended up contracting something called bacterial meningitis, or it's also called meningococcal meningitis, which is very rare. It's a microscopic bacteria that is, 1 in 4 people are carriers of it. It's like this bacteria that's kind of in our world, but our bodies normally fight it off. And my body didn't fight it off. And I almost died. So I was in the hospital for about 2.5 months fighting for my life. I was in a coma. I ended up losing both my legs below the knees to septic shock. I lost my kidneys. I lost my spleen, and I lost all the hearing in my left ear. And I was 19 years old, and I was basically pieced back together in order to survive. And my life changed forever. I thought I knew who I was and where I was going in my life. And all of a sudden I had to rethink everything. I had to step into the world as a completely different person and figure out who I was now and how I was going to move forward with not knowing what the future held at all. And I found my way. So I would say that's where it all began, but that's what broke me down, but that's also what taught me so much about myself. And I think where so much of my resilience and my grit and my creativity and just the things that have helped me throughout the rest of my life all came from that experience.
Yeah, that's insane. Let me ask you a question. Like, was your constitution, I mean, obviously you were an athlete, growing up and even, post growing up, were you always did you consider yourself like a gritty person?
No, and actually I was not an athlete growing up. I was an artist growing
Oh,
up.
wow. Okay.
I painted a lot. I didn't play any sports at all. And I think that's one interesting thing. I think when people look at professional athletes, because I did go on to be a professional athlete, people assume that you were raised an athlete and you were
Yeah.
raised in like this athletic family. My family was not athletic. I mean, people skied and snowboarded in my family, but we were not athletes, and we didn't even do any kind of sports or even go to sports things in Vegas growing up there. So no, I was not an athlete. I painted, excuse me, and I had no idea that that's what I would go on to be. So no, I did not find my grit until I was forced to find it, until I lost my legs and had to pull from everything I had to move forward in my life, to find the strength to move forward. And so, no, and I don't think my family would have said, "Oh, Amy's tough and she's got grit and she's resilient." I was actually very emotional as a kid. I still am. I'm empathetic. I care about animals and people, and I think that's why I became a massage therapist. I wanted to help people. I would not consider myself naturally necessarily somebody who has a lot of grit and resilience. I think I built it through the challenges that I was dealt.
I have two thoughts. So first thought is, that there's like data around like having high sensing neurology. So like the fact that you're an artist, that kind of aligns to that. A lot of artists have it. My family has it, like almost like my brother, my sister, myself, all my kids. And so I don't know if you've ever known that data, but you probably have a high sensing neurology, which is kind of aligns to what you just said around being sensitive. And the second thing that a question I had was when you I can't imagine that's the moment, first of all, getting sick, like that, I think everyone can relate to getting sick, but like getting sick in a way where it goes that sideways at that age. How did you, when you came out of a coma, was it an induced coma or you went into a coma just from the shock?
It was an induced coma. And,
Okay.
but I mean, I was dying. When I was in the hospital, so I was given less than a 2% chance of living. And that's right when I entered the hospital. And my body went into septic shock. They put me into an induced coma. I was in this coma for maybe 2 weeks at the most, kind of solid for a week, and then starting to come out of it after that. But in that week, my spleen burst. I was rushed into emergency surgery. I had a near-death experience. they didn't think I was going to survive multiple times. I had, a crash cart coming to shock my heart back into rhythm, and traumatic for my family. I
Yeah.
was kind of obviously in a whole different world at that time, but I woke up realizing and learning that I was most likely going to lose my legs. My feet, because of the septic shock, my hands and my feet were black when I woke up.
Wow.
And it's because your body pulls blood from your extremities to save your organs. When your organs are, hemorrhaging, my organs were hemorrhaging. I think every organ was affected except for my heart and my brain. And so it was, it was a life or death situation for, I'd say, for a solid 2 weeks. And then it was trying to just kind of survive the rest of the time in the hospital.
When you think back, I don't know. I mean, obviously this was a while ago, but it was obviously a big moment for you. Were you like, oh my God, I just want to live? Or was it, or like, what were the things you were thinking about then?
I will tell you, I was so grateful to have a second chance at life. It was having that perspective is absolutely what shaped my experience from that point forward. I knew how close I was to dying. I knew I was possibly losing my legs, had no idea what to expect with that, terrified about that. I was terrified about losing my kidneys, like they were in full failure and I didn't know if they were going to come back. But at the same time, I felt so grateful to be alive. And I felt so grateful to have my family by my side, that we had good doctors that were helping me. I really leaned into gratitude, and I leaned into what was going right. And I think, when you're in survival mode like that, something is amazing about it, where it makes you very present. It makes you just in the moment. That's it. You're not really thinking, what if I have a kidney transplant? What's my life going to be like? What if I lose my legs? What's my life going to be like? I can say my family was probably thinking those things, but for me, being in survival mode, I was just moment to moment and grateful, feeling incredibly sick. I mean, barely alive, really barely alive. Like my organs weren't functioning proper. I was at something like 17 IVs. I was on 24-hour dialysis. I mean, I was, they had to fill me up with 50 pounds of water because my veins collapsed. So, I mean, I was hanging on by a thread, but I was also just very present and grateful for anything that I could be grateful for. And that's basically that's where my resilience came from at that time. That's all I had, was to just look at my family that was by my side and just be grateful for that. And that gave me maybe enough strength to just make it through each day.
Now I have a thought, and I think that there's an element of like kind of surrendering to the moment. Like, well, like how did that come about for you? Like what, like obviously gratitude is part of it, but what was your thought around like just surrendering to like trying to like a higher power, or just the moment? Like how did you approach that?
Absolutely. And I think, that's something that I've leaned on a lot in my life since then as well, is surrendering, when you can't change a situation, and it's like the worst case scenarios could happen and you're faced with them and you can't control them. I mean, all you can really do is just relax into it and kind of ride the wave. And that's really what I had to do at that time. I think I did have this experience when I was in a coma. I had a near-death experience, and I had flatlined on the table. I was brought into emergency surgery because my spleen burst. I was already in a coma, and so and barely alive, and they brought me into this emergency surgery. So they had no idea if I was going to survive or not. And my spleen actually burst inside of me, and so they rushed me in. And I remember being in that surgery. I remember my heart was beating really fast. I remember knowing that these doctors were there to save me, but I kept thinking to myself, they better hurry because I'm going right now. And I felt like I was hanging on just by my fingertips on the edge of a cliff, like just with everything I had. Um, and then I remember feeling my last heartbeat and suddenly just being in this space where I knew what happened. I knew that I had died. Um, and I was given a choice at that time if I wanted to stay or if I wanted to go, if I wanted to stay here on earth or if I wanted to leave. And I chose to stay. And a few, I think a week or so after that is when I started to wake up from this coma. But I remembered that. And as I was waking up, I was thinking it to myself. And I didn't want to forget that I had made the choice to be here. And also, when I made that choice to be here, I remember hearing this. It was either a voice or a thought. There was this bright white light that was sitting on my shoulder. And I remember it telling me that no matter what you go through in life, it will all make sense in the end. It will all make sense in the end. And I wasn't raised religious. I've never been religious. But just having that experience where I chose to be here, I could have chose the easy way out. I could have chose to leave, and I chose to be here. That empowered me. And also just, I've always kept that in the back of my mind when I've faced difficult moments, is we might not understand why we're going through it, but it will all make sense in the end. And so that's, I guess, where my faith lies. And that's what helped me kind of coming out of that coma, realizing that I was going to lose both my legs below the knees and have no idea what my life was going to be like, have no idea if I was going to snowboard again, travel, do all the stuff that I wanted to do in my life. But I remember just, okay, like, it's going to be hard. I chose to be here, so I'm not a victim. And it will all make sense someday.
Yeah.
And that's all I can do. So the surrendering, I kind of surrendered into that and let that carry me. And it carried me places that I never could have imagined.
Wow. That's amazing. Wow. And so, when you came out of the coma, first of all, it's wild. And you said it was like a download. Was it just like was it a voice, or was it like a download, or just like what? Do you remember?
Yeah, I kind of skipped over some of the story there, but I haven't told it in so long. But so when I ended up in this dark space, I saw a light, but it wasn't like the bright light at the end of the tunnel. It was more of a pale green light. And it was enough of a light to see that there were 3 silhouettes standing in front of me. And I didn't recognize them. So they didn't really, they were just beings. I couldn't say they were human or not human, but it was just silhouettes, right? And they were moving their hands in this motion, like a come here motion. And they were saying to me, you can come with us or you can stay. And I remember just getting so frustrated with every ounce of energy that was left in my body. I screamed and I yelled and I said, I'm not going anywhere. And I thought to myself, I haven't fallen in love. I haven't, done all these things that I've wanted to do in my life. Oh, it makes me emotional because I haven't talked about it in so long. But I was like, I'm not going anywhere. And then I thought of all these things that I loved in my life. I thought about the smell of a campfire. I thought about the taste of hose water as a kid, that metallic taste when you're
totally
drinking out of the sprinklers, like these little things that I loved about life. And I said, I'm not going anywhere. And it was then that, this bright light appeared on my shoulder, and it was basically saying to me, and I didn't hear a voice. It was maybe a mixture of a voice and a thought, but I just remember being told that we have no idea what's going to happen in life. Life is full of ups and downs and detours, but just know that it will all make sense in the end. And that was enough for me to be able to, take that and move forward and lean on that anytime times got tough. And they did. They got tougher than that. And they have throughout my life, right? So the longer you live, the more challenges and the more stories we're going to have. And the more resilient we need to be. Like, we need to know that we can lean on certain things that get us through those tough moments. And for me, I'm grateful that that happened, because I think that really shaped the person that I went on to be.
Wow. First of all, thank you for sharing that. I mean, I feel really honored to hear this from you, and I think the audience is probably like, holy shit. Sorry, this is R-rated, by the way. I didn't mention that in the pre-show.
I love it.
Yeah. The F word's my favorite. The audience knows. So
Mine too, and people don't expect it, because people are like, she's so inspiring, and I'm at home, cursing like a truck driver. I keep telling my husband, I need to stop cussing so much.
Yeah, it was fun. I was traveling with my family, and I got a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old. I'm like, I think I need to talk. The kids don't. They've never even said a bad word, and I'm like, I think I need to talk to them, because they hear me curse a lot, and just let them know that it's not okay for them.
Yeah, right. It's okay for me, not for them.
Yeah, I need to let them know like I get to say fuck. So you came out of this. First of all, that's such a powerful moment, and it sounds like you obviously got dealt the card of, hey, you're going to lose your legs, and it sounds like you handled it with a lot of grace. But what was that what was it just like, okay, at least I'm alive and I'm just going to work through it? Tell us what happened to you then?
Yeah, I mean, nothing can prepare you for losing your legs, for getting news like that, especially when it is the worst case scenario and you hope it doesn't happen. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. I know the doctors were talking about it, and I couldn't even wrap my head around it to visualize what my life was going to be like. I had never met anybody who had lost their legs before, who had prosthetic legs, anything like that. I pictured myself in a wheelchair with no legs, just, sad. I didn't know what to expect with that. And then I remember the day that the doctor came in, and this was maybe a month after I entered the hospital. And he basically said, he kind of put his hand on my ankle, so basically my feet, it was like my feet and my ankle were just black because of the septic shock. And there was definitely this line of demarcation where it's like everything above it was healthy, but everything below it wasn't. And the doctor put his hand there, and he said, if we don't amputate your legs here tomorrow, next week we're going to have to amputate them up here. And he put his hand on my thigh. And, for me, I think the decision was made, right? And it's also or I'm going to die. So I never cried about that. I just kind of said, okay, do what you got to do and get me out of here. Because I was also so tired of being touched and poked. I was being poked with needles every day because I had meningitis. My immune system was super crashed. And so they would move these IVs. I had all these IVs. They'd move them around every day. I have, even to this day, I've got scars up and down my neck. These IVs were constantly moved. And I was constantly going in for testing, and there was constant emergencies, and I constantly be having tape pulled off of me. I was so tired of the tape being pulled off of me, just from bandages or surgeries or whatever it was, that, I started to lose my mind just because of the tape that was being pulled off of me. So when the doctor said, we have to do this tomorrow, I just thought to myself, do what you got to do so that I can get out of here and I can move on with my life. And so the surgery was made the next morning. I went in. I remember going into surgery. I was being wheeled down the hall, and my parents were in tears and devastated, and I was too. I wasn't in tears, but I had no idea what to expect. But I gave myself 3 goals. I think I needed control in that moment, in a moment that I didn't feel control. And so I gave myself 3 goals. And the first goal was that I wasn't going to feel sorry for myself. Everybody else felt sorry for me, and it didn't feel good. And so I thought, I'm not a victim. I'm not going to act like one. I'm not going to feel sorry for myself. And the second goal was that I was going to snowboard that year, because I had never missed a year of snowboarding. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to snowboard this year, and I'm going to figure out a way. And then the third goal was that when I figure this whole mess out, I would help other people do the same. And so I think those three goals anchored me in something that I did have control over in a situation that I couldn't control. And I was wheeled into surgery, and they ended up amputating both my legs below the knees. And I stepped into a completely new life from that point forward.
So when you came out of that surgery, what was the and my understanding is you've had that wasn't the only surgery. There've been a lot of surgeries. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So when you came out of that, like, take us through how do you go from that to like snowboarding? I mean, did you hit goal number 2? I guess that's my first question. Did goal number 2 happen? I'm assuming
it did.
Okay,
it did happen. Yep, it did. So I lost my legs. It was August. I want to say, when was it? Gosh, I forget. August 1999 is when I lost my legs. And I said, I'm going to snowboard this year. And I ended up getting on my snowboard in March of that year.
Wow.
And it didn't go great. I mean, I couldn't feel my feet in my snowboard boots, obviously. I was kind of slipping all over the place trying to walk up to the mountain. And it really wasn't until I was on the chairlift that I thought to myself, maybe this isn't possible. I really didn't allow myself to believe it wasn't possible until the last second there, as I was getting off the chairlift, that I thought, maybe this dream of mine to snowboard again isn't possible. And I got really nervous. But I got off the chairlift and I was okay. I kind of cruised over. I was fine. I kind of stood up and was able to do that part. And then I strapped into my snowboard, and then I got up and I rode down the mountain for a minute. I just kind of like pointed my board straight just to see what it would feel like. I couldn't feel my feet underneath me. I felt like I was hovering, a foot or so off the ground. And I rode to my heel side, and that felt okay. But then I went to ride to my toe side. My ankles wouldn't bend. Because my ankles are basically just bars bolted together. So my ankles wouldn't bend, and I ended up shooting straight down the mountain and hitting this bump and falling. And my goggles went one way and my beanie went the other way, and my legs still attached to my snowboard went flying down the mountain. And I was on top of the mountain, and I heard a lady scream from the chairlift, like traumatized the whole ski resort because a girl broke into pieces. Like body parts went everywhere. And so my sister and my friend hiked down and picked up my legs that were still attached to my snowboard and hiked them back up to me. And, and I was really, really discouraged. And I thought, okay, this is clearly impossible. Or you would see a double leg amputee snowboarding and you just don't see that. Or at that time, you didn't see that. But then, right away, I was like, wait a second, is it impossible? Is it actually impossible? Like, what needs to happen here to do this again? And I thought, okay, I need to figure out how to keep these detachable body parts attached to my body. B, I need to get my ankles to move the way that I need them to. And so it really just fired me up. And I ended up going home. I went to my prosthetic shop where I worked with my prosthetist who helps to build my legs. And together we built a pair of feet that I could snowboard in. So I knew the motion that I needed. There weren't any feet on the market. So we ended up just taking parts and pieces of different feet and developing these feet for me to snowboard in. And they actually worked. And just a quick side note, those feet are on display right now at the Smithsonian in DC. So
no way.
And they're full of duct tape and neon pink duct tape. But they got me up on my board and feeling in control of my legs again. And so it was this journey of trying to figure it out for myself. And like you said, you were passionate enough to figure out podcasting, and one thing led to the other, right? That I could have never imagined when I lost my legs that I'd go on to be a Paralympic athlete, for Team USA, standing on podiums, winning medals. I just followed my passion, which was snowboarding. And one thing led to the next. I went on this mission to figure out how to do it. And once I figured out that I could do it, I wanted to help other people. And I ended up meeting my husband while snowboarding. And he was a passionate snowboarder as well. And he had a nonprofit background. And so we started a nonprofit organization together, Adaptive Action Sports. And through that organization, we were able to push to get snowboarding into the Paralympics for the very first time. where I then went on to compete and become a 3-time Paralympic medalist. So it really was just this unfolding of following this passion that that kept me alive, really, because that's what I wanted. I didn't really even think about walking again. All I wanted to do was snowboard again. And so it was just constantly trying to figure out how to get my feet right and how to get my snowboard right and how to do it better, better, better. I did that for 15 years and then go on to, help to push to get it into the games and then be in the games myself. So it was just this unfolding, the path unfolded as I continued to follow my passion.
I love that. And so going to first of all, the story of the first time, I have a question about the first time you went down the mountain. Did you did you have first of all, every single time I get off a chair, I'm a snowboarder too, but even to this day, and I'm a decent snowboarder, every time I get off, I get nervous.
I do too. I still do. I always
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time I'm like, wow, and sometimes I do, but it's pretty rare. And so I'm like, I can't imagine. When you were, I got butterflies in my stomach when you were describing you getting off the first time. I'm like,
yeah,
oh my God, I can't imagine how fearful I would have been if I was you. So
and imagine not being able to feel your feet underneath you, or if you're on ice, which usually the chairlift, exit is.
Yeah, that's insane. Now at least you shot down the mountain, so that you did get a data point that you could ride part of the mountain. I mean I see that as a silver lining. But my question for you is, did you have was someone else riding around near you? Because did you just go solo? I mean, how?
No.
What?
Luckily, it was my friend and who I grew up snowboarding with, and my sister.
Okay.
And so they were, luckily they hiked down and grabbed my feet and my snowboard and hiked them back up to me. And, but it's, it was interesting because that could have been the end of my dream because it was so daunting, but it ended up being the beginning of my Paralympic journey because I didn't give up and I just went on this mission to figure out how to do it again.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let me ask you a question, and I think parents who are listening to this may resonate with this question. There's a saying with you're only as happy as your least happiest child. How did I don't know if you ever heard that before, but that's something I've heard, and as being a parent, I think it makes sense. Obviously I'm assuming there was a lot of ups and downs emotionally with this entire situation, especially right after surgery and your recovery, and then the constant ups and downs of dealing with losing your legs. How did your parents handle? Did you rising to the occasion help them rise to the occasion? I'd love to hear about that.
I love that you asked that, and I love that you asked that in that way, because I also think that this was a source of my resilience. I didn't like to see my parents so heartbroken and upset. Yeah. So when I was in the hospital, they were shattered, knowing that I was the youngest and their daughters who loves to hike and snowboard and, do all these things was going to lose her legs. And none of us had any idea what my life was going to be like. And I hated to see my parents so sad. And so I think it gave me the strength to figure things out because I wanted them to know that I was going to be okay. And so my goal, and I realized even looking back, even going on to be a motivational speaker and do a lot of the things that I've done in my life, a lot of it stemmed from, I don't want my parents to worry about me. I don't want them to feel like they have to take care of me the rest of my life. I don't want them to have to worry about me financially. And it is very expensive to have a disability in the first place. Prosthetic legs are $30,000. Some insurances cover legs, but you need legs for your entire life. I've gone through at this point so many pairs of legs I can't even count. Wow. And then I have a kidney transplant now. My dad ended up giving me a kidney at the week of my 21st birthday. And that was 24 and a half years ago. And just a quick side note about that. When I had my transplant, the average kidney transplant only lasted 9 years. And my dad and I are celebrating 25 years in November. And so, but Now, sorry, now I forgot where I was going.
I was talking about, I was just asking about how, if your parents, like wrote, like how your behavior mirrored your parents, like how did that, you were talking,
Yeah,
that was the question really. It was like, how did you show up for your parents? Cause I kind of had a sense that you put on a game face to like get
I
them.
did. I did.
Yeah.
I didn't mirror my parents. I stayed strong for my parents. And
Wow.
through that, I found my own strength.
Oh, I'm gonna ask you a
Yeah.
funny question right now. So if you get a kidney for your 21st birthday, are you allowed to drink with it?
I know. So I always say, I'll tell you what my dad said. So my dad is like a cowboy. He ran a rodeo in Vegas. We grew up with horses and stuff. And my dad said, he whispered in my ear when he, like right before we went into surgery, he said, from this point forward, you're only allowed to drink Crown Royal. That kidney is used to Crown Royal. And so now every year on our anniversary, we take a shot of Crown Royal.
Yeah, fuck yeah,
And
that's
actually,
awesome.
Crown Royal has sent us like all this rare Crown Royal. And um, but it's, yeah, but I also say, I'm like, gosh, when other people are having shots of vodka on their 21st birthdays, I was getting shots of immune suppressive medication and morphine in the hospital. But what
Not
I
the
did
type of
do,
shot.
I
Sorry,
went
go
out
ahead.
a week before. So I got it all out of my system a week
Nice.
before because I did have a fake ID. So luckily I was able to
Good.
get away with that. And then
90s
I
fake
had my
ID.
transplant, like exactly seven. In fact, they originally were going to do the transplant on my birthday. And I was like, that's my birthday.
Yeah, man.
So no, I didn't do it a week before my 21st. I was able to party on my 21st. I was.
Okay, good,
And then
good,
I
good.
waited a week for the transplant. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I had to ask. So, it was interesting as you were describing like the actual creation of your feet and your like, because this is such a different time, right? Like I'm 47, so we're close enough in age where I know what I was doing in 1999, and in 2000, and so this is not so this was there was, it doesn't sound like this was like this was all new technology. You were creating new technology for people to actually be able to do these types of things. Like, did you realize that at the time? Like, you're like, wow, like this is not an opportunity that people with this disability get to go do these things, and I'm going to force it. Like, what were your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it really came down to once I figured out that I could do it, I wanted to help others do the same.
Mm,
And I didn't see other snowboarders at that time. I did start to reach out. The internet was so new, and I started reaching out, trying to Google like amputee snowboarder, disabled snowboarder, like prosthetic snowboarder, anything I could to find some people, which I did. I'd read a blog about one person, and then I saw some guy on TV snowboarding one day. He was a snowboarder for Burton, and he rode down this mountain and pulled up his pant leg, and he had a prosthetic leg. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get in touch with this guy. I ended up calling the network and getting his phone number. They just gave it to me, which was so different times, right? I
yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
hey,
right.
yeah, they were like, oh yeah, he's my best friend, here's his number. And he just gave me his number. And then so I called him. So I really just kind of reached out anywhere I could to get as many resources as I could and pull together who I could, to learn from, really, to how to use snowboard in a prosthetic leg, things like that. So this small group of us ended up getting together and going snowboarding. I think it was it was 3 months after my kidney transplant. We went snowboarding up in Mammoth Mountain. And so I got to meet a handful of other amputees who snowboarded as well. And I think, yeah, I mean, that just kind of led me on this journey of like, there are people out there like me, and more people should be doing this, because at the time there was a lot of organizations for skiers and disabilities, and skiing was in
Mm,
the Paralympic Games. And so anytime I would call an adaptive ski school, or even any ski school, they would just say, oh, you should ski, not snowboard, because there's not really anything for snowboarding. And so once I figured out that I could do it, I realized, more people could be doing this as well. And my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, he was so passionate about snowboarding, and we snowboarded together. And so it never was like, oh, we're going to create this huge thing that's going to turn into this amazing thing for other people, or for, get us to the Paralympics. We really wanted to pull together initially just a community of like-minded people who loved life, who wanted to live life to their fullest, who loved these sports as well, and where we can learn and grow and connect with each other. And through that, we realized, wow, like everyone snowboards so good and everyone's like figured out their own little system. So for me, my feet worked for me, but they didn't necessarily work for other people. Other people figured out, they were in their garage working on their own feet. And so I was able to help people like me. If there were other double leg amputees who would come in, I'd show them my setup and stuff. So, but really it was a very like individual thing early on. Really the organization, it came from a sense of community, wanting to just find like-minded people, but then realizing that there was a lot of us that were really like major go-getters, high energy, wanted to compete, athletic. And we started pulling people from all around the world together, and then started putting on competitions and connecting with big organizations. We ran the first adaptive snowboard competition at the X Games. And then we did the first world championships for adaptive snowboarding. I would fly all over the world with this group of athletes, and we had no money. This wasn't even an official sport, but we'd hear about somebody in France running an adaptive snowboard competition, and so we'd all just pull together whatever money we have and fly to France and compete there. And so for years we just kind of did it to show up and just to show what the possibilities were. And then collectively with all the kind of countries around the world, we all pulled together to do a big push and get it into the Paralympic Games. So it was just, again, it was just this thing of like, we followed our passions and created something that didn't exist that I needed. And through that, we realized, wow, there's so many people like me that need these resources as well. So that's really how the organization unfolded, and helping other people with disabilities snowboard.
Was there a moment like before it became a sport in the Paralympics where you're like, oh, I think we've made it, or was that the moment for you?
Let me think. I mean, we at first there was a moment where it was, so the first Paralympics, the ones that we were pushing for were 2014 in Sochi, Russia. And I think it was 2010, one of the representatives for Russia came out to one of our competitions that we were doing in New Zealand. And we thought for sure that we were going to be in the Paralympics. And it was right after that, like the next day, we got a letter that snowboarding wasn't going to be in the 2014 Paralympic Games. And so we were devastated just as a community. We had all worked so hard all these years trying to show, what the possibilities were. And also we had pooled the correct amount of countries. We needed 8 countries representing at these competitions. We did everything right, but I'm not sure why they didn't want us in there at that time. But we definitely felt like the wind was let out of our sails, and we all went home, and we were just, kind of bummed out, like, where do we go from here? And then I think it was maybe 6 months later, all of a sudden, the Olympics put out a huge press release that snowboarding was going to officially be in the 2014 Paralympic Games. So that was thrilling, because that came what felt like out of nowhere. And all of a sudden it was like, okay, game on. And I went on a mission to, instead of just being the one kind of helping to organize these events, I thought, this is my opportunity to be the best athlete that I could be, to figure out what I'm capable of. And so I just went into full athlete training mode. That was in 2011. So from 2011 to 2014, it was my job to be the best athlete that I could be.
Like, as you say all these things, and if audience members are going to remember, I mentioned that Amy was a dancer and runner-up on Dancing with the Stars. So I'm going to go there in a second, because I really want to talk about that. But as you're saying all these things, I'm like, a lot of listeners are probably like, oh my God, like, I wouldn't have been able to do any of these things. Like, there's like the word resilience keeps coming up. Like, when you think through like advice for people that are like dealing with setbacks, like great setback would be what you just mentioned. And like, you guys were on this mission to create this thing, you did all the right things, and then, oh, it didn't work. And then all of a sudden it did work. Like, there's a lot of examples of that in your life. Like, what advice do you give to people what are your thoughts around like people being able to show up and not give up when they get dealt a hand dealt a hand that they didn't want?
I think continuing to show up for yourself and for your passions and for your dreams is the most important thing that you can do. Because I mean, that's for me, it has been the only way that I've achieved anything is by continuing to knock down doors and continuing to show up. And that comes from just following my passion. I think when you can follow your heart, right? Like what you're passionate about, I think that's connected to your purpose. So when you can follow the things that make you feel alive, don't think about the outcome. I know it's hard to not think about the outcome, but it really is the process of continuing to show up for yourself. And if the outcome is favorable, that's amazing. But if not, then you've grown and you've learned and you've shown up. I mean, I think that even with speaking, so I have gone on now to do over 600 speeches. I've spoke to close to 1 million people live on stages. I speak for corporations all across the world. And when I first started, I was horrible. And not only was I horrible, I was terrified. And not only that, I still get terrified, and I still have moments where I'm nervous and I question if I should be on this stage or that stage but early on, I mean, I was terrified to stand on stage and share my story. And in fact, I failed miserably at one of my very first speeches to the point of where I never wanted to do it again. I told my husband, who I was dating at the time, I told him that if there's one thing I know for sure, it's that I'm not meant to be a motivational speaker. Wow. And yet I let myself kind of wallow in that pity for a little bit, but then I kind of pulled myself together and just thought, I'm not going to let this win. I am going to figure this out. And so then I ended up taking a college course on speaking, going to Toastmasters, reading all these books, studying every TED Talk until I eventually got my own TED Talk. Like it was something that I just kind of became hyper focused on. So I would say that, if you just, we're going to have these setbacks and we're going to doubt ourselves. And I think that's one of my greatest lessons that I've learned in my own life is to not give up on yourself. Like if you feel it inside, it's there for a reason. And so keep moving forward and you'll eventually find the way. I think we oftentimes give up on ourselves way too soon. And it takes time and it takes, effort and it takes that passion that really gets you to the finish line.
Yeah, I love that answer. I really appreciate you saying that. And so I want to pivot because you ended up Dancing with the Stars. Like, tell us that story. Like, how does that even happen?
I know that was out of the blue. And that was something I never could have imagined that I would do, especially having 2 prosthetic legs. So I was going into the 2014 Paralympic Games and I got a phone call from the executive producer of Dancing with the Stars. And actually I got an email and then I got on a call with her. And she said, have you ever danced before? And I said, nothing other than hanging out with my friends in a club or something. And, she said, do you want to be on the show? And I was like, sure, I'm down to try anything. But I did not actually believe it was going to happen. There's been a lot of things over the years, especially at that time. So I was a Paralympic athlete, or I was going into my first Paralympic Games. And so I had some big sponsorships. I was sponsored by Coca-Cola and I was on a big billboard in LA and I was snowboarding with a Coke in my hand. And you didn't see my legs or anything, but that's the billboard that the producer saw and she decided to research me online. And then she just emailed me directly through my website. And so because of, having these sponsors going into the Paralympic Games, that's really what landed me on Dancing with the Stars, because she saw me on that billboard. But I didn't think it was going to happen. And so I've had plenty of things in my life, plenty of opportunities that pop up and people inquire about different things and they never pan out. So I hit a point in my life where I stopped getting excited about things unless I was there and it was happening. I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
don't get my hopes up, right? And so that was that. I thought, well, that was a cool conversation. And then I just threw myself into snowboarding, prepping for the Paralympics. And it was about 2 weeks before going to the Paralympics, we got this official contract to be on the show. The thing that was so crazy, though, is that it overlapped with the Paralympic Games. And so I think my race was on like March 13th, but then the first Dancing with the Stars live show was like March 16th. And those weeks leading up, when I was going to be in Russia competing, those weeks leading up are when all of the celebrities are dancing and learning their dances. And so originally I said, I can't do this. There's no way I can do this. It's overlapping with the Paralympics. I'm going to be in Russia. Well, they ended up flying out my partner, Derek Huff, to Russia. And we danced together in this old Russian hotel in the basement of this hotel, and had this little mirror, couldn't see my feet, couldn't see my legs, had no idea what I was doing. And so, and I was training during the day on the Olympic and Paralympic course. And then I would take 2 gondolas down and jump in a taxi cab, head to the town over, dance with Derek for 3 hours each night. I did that for 3 days. I only had 3 days to learn my very first Dancing with the Stars dance. And then after I won my medal in Sochi, I stepped off the podium, went straight to the airport, stepped onto the airplane, flew 24 hours, got off the airplane, went straight into the CBS studios, and I was live and jet lagged and dancing the cha-cha-cha in front of like 13 million people.
Oh my
Watching.
gosh. How like what was that experience of dancing and I mean that's insane. Like were you like nervous?
Oh my gosh, it was insane. I hadn't, I've said this so much in this podcast. I had no idea what to expect, but I say that because there was no confidence. It wasn't like I'm confident. No, like I can't feel my feet on the floor. I don't know if they're going to stay on. I don't know, I don't know if I can dance. I don't know if everyone's going to laugh at me. I don't know if people are going to feel sorry for me. Are people, going to boo me and vote me out of there? Like, I also didn't want people to, just like feel bad for me or feel like, oh, good for her. Like she can dance with a disability. Like I didn't want that kind of energy. But I didn't know what I could do. So yes, I was that first show. It's actually one of my favorite dances to watch. If I go back to YouTube and I watch week 1 of Dancing with the Stars with us, it's not my best dance. Like I make mistakes and stuff, but I can feel the same energy that I felt then, which was so surreal. Like I had just won medals. Now I'm on Dancing with the Stars. And I was almost out of my mind because I was also jet lagged. And I was just kind of like, what is happening? And all I wanted was to not be the first one eliminated. And that was the high hopes that I had for myself. I just didn't want to be the first one eliminated. Every week for the first 4 weeks, I just kept thinking, I just don't want to be eliminated quite yet. But I also couldn't really settle into the reality that it was happening. It wasn't until week 4 that I said to myself, you are here, like, and you're still here. Like, let it soak in, and be present and do the best you can. Cause it just felt like a surreal, oh my gosh, it was so crazy. And it was also, not only was on Dancing with the Stars, it was a big deal having a double leg amputee, and there was so much energy around it. The next morning I'd be on Good Morning America and there'd be articles all over. I mean, it was like I was thrown into the Hollywood limelight immediately and just trying to grasp all of that. So it's very surreal. And then I ended up coming in second place, making it to the end and almost winning the show. And just, it taught me, if I already knew I was strong, I was already an athlete, right? I knew that I had grit. I knew I had resilience, but it actually made me dig even deeper because you were doing it on live TV. You had very little time to prepare. It was like doing the Paralympics every week. And you knew these videos were going to last forever on YouTube. Yeah. And so you don't want to make any mistakes. So yeah, sometimes the nerves were so great that I'd feel like I was going to black out, just getting ready to go on stage. I think I was going to black out. And but, but I'd always figure it out, and not just me, we would, right? So I think it just taught me so much. Like, you don't think you're ready. I never was ready to go out on stage, but then we did it anyways, and we figured it out. And as long as I was present, so my goal for myself became on the show to just be present. As long as I'm present, then I will make the right choices. And that's when I first experienced flow state. Like,
Yeah.
even as an athlete, I had experienced bits and pieces of being in a flow, but I really experienced it on Dancing with the Stars, because I got to a point where I didn't want to just barely make it and go, oh, what happened? That was a whirlwind. I wanted to be present enough to experience it. And so I really learned to slow myself down, and it would put me in this unbelievable flow state. And I'd hear the audience, like I'd see them clapping, everything would go in slow motion. And it was such a good feeling. It was just like sitting in the pocket of timing of everything. And I've been able to bring that forward with snowboarding. After I experienced it on Dance with the Stars, I thought, okay, that's what it's about. It really is about slowing down and being present in what you're doing. And if you're present, you'll make the right choices. And yeah, and I mean, it was hard. My feet would slide around, my toes would fall off. My feet broke many times right before going on stage.
Wow.
I mean, it would be like a scramble and a panic. The challenge was heavy. But then just to know that we always would figure it out, like that kind of starts to give you some confidence that, like,
Yeah.
it's going to be okay, even if you don't feel prepared, even if you don't feel ready. If you're present, you'll figure it out. And that's probably one of my greatest lessons at the show.
Love that. I love that so much. That's such an epic story. I mean, we've ran over. Do you have a few minutes? I have one question, then we'll go to the greatness question. You cool with that? Let's do it.
Oh yeah,
All right.
sounds good. Yep.
All right, cool. So, look, you're 45. You've lived like 5 lifetimes. What are you excited about for the next 45 years?
Oh my gosh, 45 years is a long time to think about. I think just I've slowed down with these big, like, what can I do? I want to reach all these goals, like hustling. And I have really slowed down, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm in a different space now that I'm grateful that I can say I did those things. And now I can take from those things and help to share with other people and learn from them as well. I think I'm most excited, like, aging is kind of cool because I'm finding myself becoming more aligned with who I really am. All of that was me, but I think I'm trying to find my most authentic self today, and make sure I'm showing up as real and authentic and true to myself as I can be. And that's a journey of itself. Yeah. So, I mean, and I have I have goals and big things I'm working on and big projects. And I just actually launched a skincare product, which might sound like off path for some people who are like, wait, you're an athlete. But I started in the spa industry. I started as a massage therapist. I actually was an esthetician. I used to do skincare. And so I've been very passionate about skincare my entire life. And so I just launched a skincare product, which is, I found out at one point that I can't do Botox. And I was doing it because I was on TV all the time. I was doing all these things. And it wasn't necessarily the brand name Botox, but it was that line of things that I did, because I would get these really heavy lines between my brows and it would give me headaches and stuff. Well, anyways, when I realized that I couldn't do it, I went on a mission to figure out what can I do that could help me, that could make me feel better about myself when I am on TV and I do these things. And so I ended up coming up with this product on my own because it was just for me, and then reaching out to this company, and they invested in it. And I ended up launching it to my audience, and my audience went wild for it, absolutely crazy. And it's amazing. And so for me, that's another step in my journey, like actually creating something that didn't exist, and being able to help other people with it as well. And so, yeah, just trying to do these things that like life is short. We don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to ever hold myself back on the things that are in my heart. And so for me, it's just that's been another part of my major learning experience, is actually creating something to share with my audience, and hope that it helps them as well.
Love that. So, obviously you have the new skincare product. You have a lot of stuff going on. We earlier, before the show started, you mentioned you have a new book coming out. If people want, I know people want to learn more about where they can connect with you, learn more about the products that you're putting out. Maybe if you want to talk about the book or point people in the right direction, I'd love for you to give that feedback to the audience.
Yeah. So yes, I do have a book coming out this next year, and it's all about resilience and just the things that I've learned along the way. So basically, everything that I learned that has helped me not just survive, but thrive is what I put in this book. And so if you want to know more about that or anything else, I would say just go to my website, which is amypurdy.com. And that's where you can get on my newsletter list so that you can be the first to hear about my book that comes out, and any other thing that I'm up to. But also, I love connecting with my audience on Instagram, and I really try to engage and answer messages and stuff. So I would love, if somebody's listening to this and they want to reach out on Instagram, that's where you can usually find me.
Awesome. We'll make sure we put all that stuff in the show notes, and really excited for all the projects you're working on. So it's really exciting news. Amy, I'd love for us to go to the greatness question. You ready for that?
I am.
All right, let's do it. So, what is the number one barrier to creating greatness that you've overcome in your life, and how did you overcome it?
I would say the number one barrier that I had to overcome in order to achieve greatness is I used to think that I wasn't good enough. I used to think that I wasn't talented enough, or I used to think that I wasn't prepared enough to do the things that I wanted to do. And the way that I got through that is just by doing them anyways, and then realizing that I can do these things. So I think that we believe that confidence should come before we do something. Like, we want to feel good about ourselves before we do something. But I think confidence comes in the doing. And that's what I've learned, because when I was speaking early on, I was horrible, and I thought I was horrible, and I thought you just had to be talented. And I didn't realize, no, it's hard work. You can figure it out. If you want to do it, you can figure it out. But I almost gave up because I thought, I'm not talented enough. This wasn't what I was meant to do. And it wasn't until I started putting in the work that I learned to do it. And then I became confident and felt better about myself doing it. And I think the same goes for snowboarding, or, anything else that I've done in my life. Even, this product that I launched, like something that's scary, where you think, well, I don't know if anyone's going to believe in this, and I don't know if people are going to laugh at me, and I don't, but you can just give up so easily. But once you know that, and once you believe that you can do it, and you just keep going, eventually you figure out that you can, right? So I think, I know I just went all over the place with that, but
No.
I hope that makes sense. But what I'm saying is that the way that you figure out if you can do something is by doing it.
Yeah, no. I have a mentor who is a former guest on the show 2 times. He was Lance Armstrong's coach. His name is Jeff Spencer, Dr. Jeff Spencer. And he has a saying, which is action organizes. Mm-hmm. And so, which is like, I might as well tattoo it on my arm. It's like, all right, just go do it. And that'll give you data. And then you can make, and just believe that you can learn from that data. And that's what I heard you just say, which is so impressive. So thank you for that. Amy, I mean, your humility and your resilience and your grit and just your passion for life is pretty amazing. And it's been such a pleasure having you on the show today. I really appreciate that so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, the pleasure is ours. And you guys, listeners, this has been such a treat. I'm so what a great way to come back from a break to interview Amy. And so please share this with people. Everyone needs to hear this podcast. So you guys, please share this out to your friends and friends of friends. And until next time, peace out, everybody. We love you.
She's my lover.
You are listening to The Greatness Machine, and that's a wrap for today. Listen, if you love what you heard, subscribe to the show on whatever podcast platform that you're tuning in on so that you don't miss any of our future episodes. We have tons of great people coming on, and we're stoked to have you here to enjoy it with us. Leave us a review. Tell us what you love most about this particular episode. We love getting the reviews. We love to see what you guys love most. And if this particular episode, made you think of someone who's leveling up in their business and in their life, print screen, share it with them. Leaders are the best givers. And after all, we're all here to support and grow with each other. And in case you want to see some of the fun behind the scenes shots or some of the things that we're doing, I'm actually writing about this in my weekly newsletter. Go to www.therealdarius.com and subscribe to my newsletter. We're talking about fun things like business and life and mindfulness and cryptocurrencies and gosh, I don't even know, everything and anything, but it's tons of fun stuff I write about. I try to get it out on a weekly basis. You can subscribe at www.therealdarius.com. And with that said, look, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. I love you. Peace. We're out of here. See you guys on the next one.
She's my lover.